Okay, I've got to admit, I was not looking forward to making this review. And well, it's because it's just not the shoe for me. So you've got to take everything that I'm going to say with a huge caveat of I don't run in shoes like this normally. So obviously, I'm never really going to enjoy it that much. But I'm going to promise to try and be a little bit more unbiased and balanced in my review here. And hopefully, you can take something from that. So, first of all, what shoe is it? It's the Altra FWD Via or the FWD Via, whatever you want to say. And why is this shoe different? Well, it's huge, first of all. It's 37 millimeters in the heel and 33 millimeters in the forefoot here. And that makes it a 4 millimeter drop. And for me, and also Ultra, that's a little bit weird. We've actually been seeing a few 4 millimeter drop shoes from Ultra recently, and that's because they're trying to capture more of the market. It does go away from their original kind of philosophy behind their shoes and then their zero drop platform. But if you're going to try and suggest people get into more foot shaped shoes, which is kind of important too, then maybe you have to actually coax them in with a shoe that feels a little more familiar, i.e., Hoka. So I don't really love it, obviously, but that's where we are now, and that's where Ultra is. And it's not trying to serve the traditional Ultra market, it's trying to serve somebody else. And maybe that's okay. Anyway, let's try and get into some kind of review about this shoe and give you my ideas on the fit, the feel, and the durability, and then we'll discuss who this shoe is really for. So I'm happy to say that this is actually more like a traditional Ultra. In terms of like, it does definitely have that wide toe box. It's got a lot of room around here for the big toe. And also, it's a little wider as well around this midfoot here. So if you've worn one of the Olympus shoes before, the Olympus Via, or even the traditional Olympus Trail shoe, then you probably know what this feels like. It is that wider option, and it is a little deeper than some of the other Ultra shoes like the Escalante and the Superior. I wouldn't quite say it's got the depth here of a Lone Peak, but at the same time, I'd say more towards the Ultra side of things. Stone just dropped out of the shoe. So if we look towards the heel, it's actually a bit more structured round here. And even your foot is cradled as well. You can see that this outsole foam extends all the way up here, up the sides, around the heel, and cradles that heel in place. It's also true around the midfoot as well. This outsole here comes up around the midfoot around here and especially into the arch area here. So that's a quick warning basically. If you've got a real flat foot, so your arch isn't very pronounced, you might actually have a bit of an issue around this area. This is what I would say is a stability kind of shoe. Even though it might be classed as neutral, it doesn't mean that it's not stable. So this is a really stable shoe. Again, similar to those Olympus platforms, it's a really, really wide underfoot. And this basically causes you, when you hit the ground, you're stabilized. So you're planted flat on the floor. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is mainly down to your biomechanics at that current point. But that is what the shoe will do. The tongue is semi-gusseted. It's stayed in place quite nicely. Again, it's one of these shorter tongues that we see from Ultra. It was still fine when I had a lace lock in there, but if you've had any issues with that in the past, then it's worth noting. I didn't really have much heel slippage as well, which is something good to say about an Ultra. So if we look at this upper, it's a mesh kind of material. It's flexible, but also I would say durable at the same time. I don't think you'll have much of an issue in terms of actually ripping out the sides of this. And that's for two reasons. One, because it's fairly durable, but two, because we don't actually see much flex in the shoe either. So you're actually not going to get much wear points, especially around this forefoot area here. I'll get into that later with the fit though. I feel the last thing just to talk about here is the depth of this toe box around here. Similar to one of the Olympus shoes, it's nice depth. I didn't actually have any issue with my toes touching the top at all. Yeah, it felt pretty nice in the end. I did actually go a half size bigger in this, and to be honest, probably a mistake. I think I should have gone with my standard US 9 that I usually get in Ultra shoes, and that is mainly because of this rocker motion here was kind of placed in the wrong area for my foot in a larger size. If I went true to size, I think this rocker motion would actually be right under the ball of my foot. It would feel a little more natural. I still feel that I would also have enough room in the toe box as well, because I was actually quite far back in this. And considering it's not really a trail shoe, I'm not worried as much about bumping into the front of the shoe because I'm not doing big descents, then I think I would have got away with a true to size. So that would be my advice to you. So getting onto the feel of this shoe, obviously, like I said, it's humongous. It's a 37mm in the heel, 33 at the front, making a 4mm drop. That basically means that your heel is 4mm higher than your forefoot around here. That basically pushes you forward slightly, offloads or a lot of the stress or some of the stress on the calves and the Achilles. It manipulates your biomechanics when you're running in this shoe. If that's a good or bad thing, we can debate that, but let's just stick to the feel of this right now. It was actually a little strange walking around in the shoe, because when I'm walking around, I tend to heel strike a little more. And this heel bevel is really, really pronounced. So I kind of felt like a slight rock backwards when I was walking around with it. It felt a little bit strange, but this is a running shoe, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. When I was running in it, it was a different matter. It was definitely rolling forward. It was pushing me forward. And that's because there is a definite rocker motion from this forefoot forward here. You can see this, a taper towards the toe box here. And this was more pronounced as well because there is pretty much zero flex in there. I wouldn't call this a flexible shoe in any means of the word. So the only way I was going to roll forward or go forward onto my foot was to roll over the shoe. And that's what was essentially happening. So from that higher heel, my foot was in a angle position already. And then because of this tapered midsole at the front, I was rolling forward and coming off. I can't say that that was a great feeling for me. It's not something that I'm used to. I'm obviously used to a barefoot kind of option, so this wasn't going to work for me. If it works for you is a different matter. I think if you're actually used to conventional shoes, something more like a Hoka, then you'll be very used to this kind of feeling. I think the advantage here that you would have is that toe box. You actually get space for your toes to splay out a little more, which is definitely beneficial, and well, it's great that Altra is still sticking by that one. So this is definitely a lightweight shoe for its size. It measures about 270 grams, which is pretty lightweight for a shoe of this size. And that is actually thanks to the new midsole foam that they're using, the Ego Flow. Yep, Ego Flow. Again, I don't really know what they're trying to do with these midsoles. I don't know the engineering behind it. I can say that it obviously is lighter and it is quite squishy as well. So I wouldn't say it's a shoe that you get great ground feel through. I felt completely disconnected from the ground. But if you like that soft, squishy feeling, then it's pretty comfortable. And because it's a little more lightweight, when I picked up the speed, it didn't feel too uncomfortable. I felt like I could do it. But I did feel that that ground feel aspect means that I didn't have 100% confidence in picking up the speed. It was still definitely a slower mileage kind of shoe for me. So one major thing about the feel that is worth talking about is the stability factor of this shoe. So I did say that these sidewalls actually raise up quite aggressively around the side of the foot here, and you can even feel that underfoot as well. So this causes a kind of like a corrective motion. It pushes you back into a neutral position, and potentially that could be uncomfortable for you, especially if you've got a flatter foot or that wider foot around the midfoot. It could feel a little uncomfortable. If you're used to a stability shoe, then, well, that might be exactly what you're looking for. You need that stability option. I would definitely encourage you to work on some, not barefoot running, but just walking around barefoot and just trying to get that ankle mobility back and ankle strength and foot and everything back. But that's a different matter. Lastly, this outsole, well, I think it's really similar to what we've seen in many other Altras in the past. It does a good job in the wet, in the dry. So let's get into the durability of the shoe. There is 3 parts to kind of go through here, and that's the upper, the midsole, and the outsole. I just talked about the outsole, And well, it's the same outsole that we usually see from Altra. It's covering most of the forefoot and into the heel and down this lateral side of the foot. It'll do a good job. It won't wear down too quick, as we've seen with many other Altras in the past. There is the exposed foam here, which could pose a problem, but if you don't actually take it in onto gravel roads or trails, it's not a problem. It could be slippy, but you don't put much pressure through these areas of the foot anyway. Into the midsole foam, like I did say, this is a newer midsole foam that we've seen from Altra. I don't know if it's just a rebranding, but it definitely feels lighter, softer, so I think it is something new. What we don't know because of that is how long this is going to last. Typically, with some softer foams, you feel it packs out a little quicker. It's kind of hard to say nowadays because midsole foam has been evolving quite quickly. I can't say for certain if it's going to break down too quickly. I'm personally not going to get hundreds of miles on these because this is just not my kind of shoe. Hopefully someone else will, and hopefully we can try and report that back. And if you have, comment down below and just basically say, hey, I got 100 miles, I got 2 miles. Like, just tell me how far you got in these shoes before it started to feel flat and packed out. And then looking at this upper, I think I said this before, but this upper it's not weak by any standards. I think it's actually fairly decent. And because we're actually not seeing too much flex through this midsole, you're not going to put too much stress through the upper either. You're not going to have a problem with this. There's overlays around the lacing area as well, so you're not going to rip through there. And this inner, nice and plush, to be honest, and feels solid, but also durable enough. I don't think we're going to see a problem with the durability of the upper construction at all. I think they've nailed that, to be honest. It really is this midsole foam. I have no idea. Yeah, please give feedback on this and help everybody out in the comments, and let's discuss it. So in conclusion, Altra forward via 4mm drop, big, massive. It's not for me. Obviously, it's not for me. Is it for you? Well, if this is going to be your first Altra, if you're coming from a conventional shoe and you're used to that higher cushion, maybe a stable kind of variety, you've got two choices here. Actually, you've probably got three choices. You've got the Altra Olympus Via, which is a zero drop, but also very stable, but kind of heavier. You've got the Altra Paradigm, a very stable shoe and also a proven shoe as well. And then you've got this one. It's the Forward Via. So it's nice and lightweight. It's still got that 4mm drop, but it's got that wider toe box. If you're really, really unsure about dipping your toes into Altras and you're very hesitant, well, maybe this is the way forward because this isn't going to be too different to what you're used to. So really, that's a good bet. If you're looking to go faster, maybe not. That's not really where I think it stands out. I think it stands out for those longer runs. So you want some stability and some comfort over those longer runs, this could work. If you're anywhere near a barefoot runner, if you're used to a Superior, even the Lone Peak or the Escalantes, just don't look at it. It's not for you. This isn't marketed towards you. Don't think that means that Altra isn't catering to you anymore. It still is. We still have the Escalantes, we still have the Superiors, we've just got the King Mountains as well. I don't know, this is just for a different person, and let's not worry about that too much unless we start to lose the other shoes, and then we'll start to worry. That's my opinion. I don't know what yours is. Maybe you can tell us in the comments as well. Where do you think Altra is going? Do you think this is the future of Altra? I personally don't think it is. I think this is like a gateway into Altra, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's different. And that's all I've got to say.